Time now for a business update on the program. And with the Netherlands moving closer to restrict more exports of key microchip technology, this is yet another salvo in the tech battle pitting the United States against China. And Charles Pellegrin is on set to tell us more. Good morning, Charles.
Hi, Allison. Yeah, that's right. The Hague had previously actually found an agreement with the U.S. and Japan to restrict its sales of advanced semiconductor tech to China. And we now have more details on what this might look like. The Dutch trade minister outlining the proposed new measures in a letter to Parliament on Wednesday. Now, the companies will have to apply for licenses in order to export this kind of tech, which is used to power a wide range of products, including the most sophisticated military-grade weaponry. And there's one company in the Netherlands that will feel particularly targeted by this. That's a company called ASML. They make the systems that can produce the smallest and most powerful chips in the world. The Netherlands Minister for Trade explained the move as being essential on security grounds, writing to Parliament that given the technological developments and geopolitical context, the Dutch cabinet has concluded that it is necessary for international security to expand the existing export control of specific semiconductor production equipment. ASML had already stopped exporting its most advanced systems to China in 2019 and has said it doesn't expect the new measures to affect its financial outlook. The new measures will lead to new legislation, which would make it harder to change positions and follows a similar move by the U.S. in October that was designed to slow Chinese advances in the semiconductor sector. China's foreign ministry reacted to this news this Thursday, saying that it, quote, opposes the politicization of economic and trade cooperation. U.S. President Joe Biden is preparing to unveil his budget plan later today, which the White House says will cut deficits by nearly $3 trillion over the next decade. The plan includes lowering drug prices, raising some business taxes, cracking down on fraud, and cutting wasteful spending. Once released, the budget proposal will kick off a months-long spending negotiation with Congress. Catherine Viet has more.
Tackling the deficit with a new budget plan. The White House says its proposal will cut federal deficits by nearly $3 trillion over the next decade. By contrast, the administration says that the various tax plans and policies backed by Republican lawmakers would add about $3 trillion to the national debt over the next 10 years.
The president does not believe in trickle-down economics. This is something that he's talked about even during the State of the Union, where we know it doesn't work. So the president has rejiggered that thinking and wants to build an economy that matters for everyone, asking the wealthy to pay their fair share and cutting wasteful spending on special interest groups.
Biden's budget proposes lowering drug prices, tax hikes on businesses and the wealthy, and cracking down on fraud in government spending. The president is seeking to raise the Medicare payroll tax for people earning more than $400,000 to 5% from 3.8%. He also wants to expand the government's ability to negotiate drug prices, which the administration says will save more than $200 billion over the next decade. The White House is also pushing the billionaire minimum income tax, a 25% minimum tax on households worth more than $100 million. His proposal would close the carried interest loophole that allows wealthy hedge fund managers and others to pay their taxes at a lower rate, while also raising the corporate tax rate from 21% to 28%. The budget announcement is a prelude to the start of spending negotiations with Republicans in Congress.
Well, U.S. bank J.P. Morgan is suing its former executive Jes Staley in a bid to make him liable for 2 lawsuits it's facing over its ties with Jeffrey Epstein. Staley is alleged to have observed Epstein abusing women and to have spent time with young girls at the financier's home. J.P. Morgan claims he never disclosed this while he was working for them and while he was managing Epstein's money. Epstein died in 2019 while awaiting trial on sex trafficking charges. Well, consumer prices in China hit their slowest pace in 12 months in February, showing showing there are obstacles in the way of a full economic rebound there. They increased by just 1%, missing analysts' expectations, pointing to weak consumer demand in the wake of close to 3 years of stringent COVID restrictions. Economic growth last year hit its lowest level in decades at just 3%. Let's see how this is playing out on the stock markets. The Shanghai Composite closing the session in negative territory on that news. As you can see there, down by 0.2%, while we're seeing a mixed picture across the rest of the region. The Hang Seng finishing the session as well, down 0.2%. The Nikkei in Tokyo, though, finished closing up over just 0.2%, with the Bank of Japan kicking off its 2-day monetary policy meeting, with investors not expecting any changes to the country's dovish posture. And European markets, meanwhile, opened the session lower. As you can see, the Paris CAC down 0.2%, the FTSE in London down 0.5%. Investors digesting comments by U.S. Federal Reserve Chair Jerome Powell earlier in the week, suggesting higher interest rates for longer, and awaiting the U.S. jobs report on Friday. Allison.
All right, Charles, we'll be following that tomorrow. Thank you very much for that business update. That's our business editor, Charles Pellegrin.